So this is assignment 1 for the Principles of Anatomy and Physiology in Sport. What you'll see is the handout date is the 17th of September and the due date when you hand it back in is the 7th of October. On the front of the brief you'll see the two criteria that you're being exposed to. It's P1 and P2. P1 is describe the structure and function of the skeletal system. P2 is describe the different classifications of joints. You are only exposed to pass criteria in this assignment. The merits and distinctions will come later on in the unit. What you'll see is that this is one of 4, so there are 4 assignments, and as you move through the unit you'll be exposed to the higher criteria. Just here it's really important to read this vocational scenario to give you context and understanding of the assignment and how it should be produced. And then in here what you'll see is details of what the task requires you to do. So we're just going to read through this. So at the start, it's everything you've done, by the way, in this assignment has been covered in class. So it's basically asking you to produce an assessment of these bullet points here. So detailed account of the functions of the skeletal system, and you should know them from the lesson. Detailed account of the structure of the skeletal system. Label the skeletal system. Okay, so you might have taken a picture of the skeletal system in lesson. Identify and provide a description of the different classifications of bones: long, short, irregular, flat, and then identify and provide a description of the classifications of joints. And then finally, detailed account of the synovial joints, the joint structure, and identifying the associated movements. Okay, so in this assignment we don't get exposed to that much criteria, and actually the task is quite small. And I'll show you where you'll start to document this information. So this is the template for you, and it is on Moodle. So the first thing requires you to give a detailed description of these functions here. So protection, attachment of skeletal muscle, mineral storage, support and structure, and blood production. Just a detailed account of each one of those. As you move through, what you'll do is you'll give a detailed account of the axle and appendicular. And when I say detailed, I mean detailed. It's not a couple of lines, you were looking for paragraphs. As you move through here, what we want you to do is to put a diagram of the axle and appendicular, one that's labelled by yourself, not direct from the internet. So again, it might be an image that you've drawn and highlighted where the axle and appendicular is. You've taken a picture of that image and you've imported it into this document, into this space here. Again, as you move through, you'll see the different types of bones. There is again a detailed description of each type of bone: long, short, flat, irregular, sesamoid, and then examples of where those bones can be found. So for example, a long bone would be found in the humerus, the femur, the radius, the ulna, etc. Likewise, the short bone, we've only covered carpals and tarsals. Okay, so just move through that. P1 here, this section here is where you've actually labelled up your skeletal system. So in lesson you will have a picture of a skeletal system and you will have handwritten the bones onto each section. What you need to do is take a picture of that and upload that into this space, making sure that each bone is labelled correctly. What you'll see on your diagram is that there's a vertebrae, and the vertebrae has 5 sections, and what you should have done is labelled up not only the 5 sections but the amount of bones in each section. Okay, make sure that your diagram meets that criteria. As we move through into P2, what you're required to do is to give a detailed account of a fibrous or fixed joint, a slightly movable known as cartilaginous joint, and a synovial joint. The structures, we want to know about the structures, okay? So a detailed description of the structures of these joints. As you move through into P2, what we're looking for is a detailed account of each synovial joint, and as you type the box will expand, so don't expect to just write a little bit, you need to write a lot, and then what will happen is the box will move down with you. So you'll write a detailed account of the joint, its structure, and maybe a sporting example of where it's used. Then you'll say where it can be found. So for example, the hinge joint we know is found in the knee and the elbow. And then you'll say the movements that happen at that joint, and in this case it's flexion and extension. You need to get all the associated movements for each joint. So not just one, it's all of them. Okay, we know, I think we covered around 6 or 7 different movements for ball and socket. Okay, and then once this bit's complete, that is the end of the assignment. What you'll do is you'll save it and then you'll submit it to Turnitin. All right. Any additional help, please contact your tutor and they will support you in completing your assignment.